All right, Hollywood Steve. In his recent interview with the Wall Street Journal, Anthony Edwards was asked how his generation compares to the ones before him and said, quote, "I didn't watch it back in the day, so I can't speak on it. They say it was tougher back then than it is now, but I don't think anybody had skill back then. Michael Jordan was the only one that really had skill." You know what I mean? So that's why when they saw Kobe, they were like, oh my God. But now everybody has skill. Stephen A. Smith. Are Ant-Man's comments out of bounds?
Of course they were out of bounds. Forgive the young buck for what he does not know. He openly admits his youth comes into play, and he's barely seen the older competition from back in the day. So he just doesn't know. Evidently, you know, he talked about Michael Jordan. He didn't see Charles Barkley play. He didn't see Larry Bird play. He didn't see Isaiah Thomas, one of the most skilled point guards this game has ever seen, a person that Michael Jordan has called the second greatest point guard in the history of basketball, behind one Irvin Magic Johnson himself, who Ant Edwards did not mention. So you take those things into consideration. Don't get me started with Larry Bird. I already threw that up in there. I can go back, and when you look at shooters, for example, as great as Steph Curry is, because he's the greatest of all time, wipe Steph Curry out of the mix. Then bring in some of the great shooters in NBA history, the Ray Allens of the world, the Reggie Millers of the world, the Allen Houstons of the world. I can go back to the days of Dale Ellis, Ricky Pierce, and guys like that. I remember downtown Freddie Brown, for crying out loud. There's some people to point to. I remember Andrew Toney at the off-guard spot, Mr. Midrange. We think about DeMar DeRozan. Go back and watch some highlights of Andrew Toney as a Philadelphia 76er. Why don't you look up Mark Aguirre and what he used to do on the basketball court, and Adrian Dantley and others. There's so many names that you can point to. Certainly the game has evolved, and in terms of parity, there's more talent in the NBA today that once existed, but that's entirely different than saying, well, Michael Jordan was the only skilled players. Let's go to the center position. Nikola Jokic is sensational. He is something special. Make no mistake about it. Joel Embiid cannot be ignored. I get all of that. You ever heard of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? You ever heard of Wilt Chamberlain? You ever heard of these guys? You understand what I'm saying? Shaquille O'Neal, excuse me. I mean, he came after them, but still, he wasn't in the Ant-Man era. You look into the most dominant force I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, there's so many things to think about and look at. And so you can look and appreciate today's players, understand that there's an elevated level of talent because they piggyback off the talent that preceded them, the pioneers that came before them. But that's not to sit up there and summarily dismiss the older generation and what they brought to the table and how innovative and tremendously talented as they were. And oh, by the way, let me not forget, even before Kobe Bryant, there was a guy by the name of Vince Carter, the best in-game dunker in the history of basketball. And you know that Ant Edwards is one of my top two favorite players in the NBA, him and Steph Curry. Let me tell you something right now. It's phenomenal as Ant Edwards is and is going to be, even with his best dunks. I would ask Anthony Edwards to go back and watch Vince Carter dunk during a game. Watch the show this brother put on. Go back and watch Tracy McGrady and what Tracy McGrady did on the basketball court. I'm just saying. Wanna try to boast at what I look like. I'm on fire. It's NBA,